Right now, without thinking about it, your body is being pressed into the ground with a force equal to your entire weight. You don't feel it as pressure. You feel it as normal. But what if, starting tomorrow morning, that force doubled? Not a metaphor, not a thought experiment buried in a physics textbook. What if gravity, the invisible hand holding every single thing on Earth to its surface, simply became twice as strong? The answer is not just strange, it is catastrophic in ways your brain is not built to imagine. Let's start with the first second. You wake up. Instantly, you feel it. Your body, which might weigh 70 kilograms today, now effectively weighs 140. You try to sit up. Your muscles, which evolved over millions of years to lift exactly your current weight, are suddenly underpowered by half. Your spine compresses. Your lungs struggle to expand because your rib cage now weighs twice as much. Breathing becomes labor. Standing becomes a test. And that's just your body. Every building on Earth was engineered for one specific gravity. One. Buildings that have stood for a century would not survive the morning. The load on every beam, every column, every foundation doubles instantly. Anything not massively overbuilt, most of the world, buckles. Concrete cracks, glass shatters, steel bends, bridges collapse into rivers. Skyscrapers don't so much fall as fold inward under their own suddenly doubled mass. It is the single largest simultaneous engineering failure in human history, and it happens in minutes. But here is where it gets stranger. Your blood has weight. Right now, your heart pumps it upward against gravity, to your brain, your arms, your eyes. Double gravity means your heart has to work twice as hard to do the same job. Cardiovascular disease, which is already the leading cause of death on Earth, would become almost universal, almost immediately. Anyone with a heart condition, the elderly, infants, anyone already stressed, they would be at severe risk within hours. Physiologist Per-Olof Åstrand spent decades studying how the cardiovascular system responds to load. His research consistently showed that the human heart operates near its ceiling, even under normal conditions. Under double gravity, most human hearts would be running at a deficit. Not tomorrow, not next week, within the first day. Your skeleton was not designed for this either. The bones of a human evolved to carry a specific load. Double that load, and you begin to see a phenomenon orthopedic surgeons call stress fracturing, micro breaks in bone structure that accumulate faster than the body can repair them. Walking, for most adults, would become progressively more painful over days. Running would be nearly impossible. Children and the elderly would fracture bones simply by existing. Now look up. The sky is changing too. Earth's atmosphere is held in place by gravity. Double gravity pulls it tighter, compresses it downward. The air near the surface becomes thicker, denser, heavier. At sea level, air pressure spikes. Your ears would pop constantly. Breathing in that denser air might initially feel like breathing underwater. Oxygen concentration at ground level would increase, but so would the atmospheric pressure bearing down on every exposed surface. Nitrogen would flood into your blood faster than your body could manage, producing something similar to nitrogen narcosis, confusion, dizziness, a kind of drunk stumbling that would affect millions simultaneously. Meanwhile, higher altitudes become uninhabitable far sooner. The mountain towns of Tibet, the Andes, the Rockies, places where humans have lived for generations, would find their already thin air pressed even further away. The concept of a livable high-altitude community would essentially vanish. The oceans are not spared.
Oceanographer Henry Stommel's work on ocean circulation showed how delicately balanced our global water system is. Under double gravity, ocean currents, which are driven partly by density differences in water and partly by the same gravitational pull that shapes tides, would recalibrate entirely. Tides themselves would be enormous. Not doubled exactly, because tidal forces depend on the difference in gravity across a body rather than its total pull, but coastlines would see tidal surges of unprecedented scale. Port cities that weren't already crushed by building collapses would be facing walls of water they were never designed for. And the rivers. Every river on Earth flows because gravity pulls water downhill. Double gravity means water moves faster, with more force, carving and eroding more aggressively. Flash floods become more violent. Soil erosion accelerates. Topsoil that took thousands of years to accumulate washes away in seasons.
Farming collapses next. Plants evolve to grow upward against gravity, a process called gravitropism. Doubled gravity means stems and trunks must be twice as strong to reach the same height. Annual crops like wheat and rice, which are relatively slender and rely on their stems holding up heavy seed heads, would collapse before they could mature. Trees would survive better, but fruit would fall earlier, bruise harder, and rot faster. Anything tall and slender, corn, sugarcane, sunflowers, would be flattened within weeks of planting. Entomologist E.O. Wilson documented how insect body plans rely on their light weight relative to their muscular strength. Insects, famously, can carry many times their own body weight. Under double gravity, they can still carry more than you can. Insects survive. Most large vertebrates struggle. The world's dominant animal class, including you, is suddenly no longer optimized for the environment. This is a kind of evolutionary reset happening in real time. Large animals, in general, suffer most. The larger you are, the more your weight scales relative to your muscle cross-section. A simple scaling law in biology called the square-cube law explains why. Volume, and therefore mass, scales with the cube of your size. But muscle strength scales with cross-section, which is only the square. Elephants, hippos, giraffes, rhinos, the megafauna of Earth would be among the first casualties. They were already pushing the engineering limits of biology. Double gravity pushes them over the edge. Smaller animals fare better. Mice, rats, small birds, insects, they thrive. In a doubled gravity world, the age of large animals ends. What rises in their place would be smaller, more compact, built closer to the ground. And what about the planet itself? Earth is not a solid rock. It's a layered system, a thin crust floating on a mantle of semi-molten rock. The crust is held in place by gravity and the pressure of the rock below it. Double gravity increases the pressure throughout the entire planetary interior. Volcanic activity intensifies. The crust, pressed harder, becomes more fractured. Earthquakes increase in frequency and magnitude. Mountains, which are maintained by a balance between tectonic uplift and gravitational erosion, would erode faster than they could be built. Over centuries, a doubled gravity Earth would become a flatter Earth. The high peaks disappear. The plains widen. The landscape becomes, quite literally, ground down. There is one more thing. Right now, you are alive because Earth's gravity is strong enough to hold its atmosphere close, but not so strong it compresses it into an unbreathable shell. That is not an accident. Earth sits in what physicists call the habitable zone, not just in terms of distance from the sun, but in terms of its mass, its gravity, and what that gravity does to every living system on its surface. Double that gravity, and you step outside the envelope. What would be left in the long run is not a human world. It is a world of small creatures, dense, low-growing plants, compressed air, flattened mountains, and the ruins of everything that evolved over 4 billion years for exactly the gravity that exists right now. Here is the part that changes how you feel the ground beneath your feet. You have never thought of gravity as a gift. It is invisible, it is constant, it is simply there. But the fact that it is exactly 9.8 meters per second squared, not 15, not 20, not 30, is the reason every tree is the height it is. Every bird can fly. Every human heart can beat without failing. Every river runs at the speed it runs. Every mountain stands as tall as it stands. Gravity is not a backdrop. It is a design constraint around which every single living thing on this planet has been precisely, painstakingly, accidentally optimized. Right now, your body weighs exactly what every system inside you evolved to carry. And that fact, which you have never once thought about, is quietly keeping you alive.